Hello and welcome to this podcast from the BBC World Service. Please let us know what you think and tell other people about us on social media. Podcasts from the BBC World Service are supported by advertising.
Hello and welcome to Comedians versus the News. I'm Iman Husseini.
And I'm Jess Solomon, here to report that Iman cooked this week.
That's right. I made fool, which is an Arabic fava bean dish. But it looked a little weird, so I checked the can and it said the beans expired in October 2021.
And we both thought, oh no, we're too late. Pandemic brain is real.
I threw it in the garbage without even tasting it.
Oh man, it was sad. It was such a production.
Just say mess.
It was such a mess.
Jess's whole thing is clean while you cook. I want the kitchen to look like nothing ever happened.
Sometimes when you repeat the things I say back to me, they don't sound so great.
But you know what sounds great?
This episode?
That's right, from the BBC World Service. This is the show that breaks down the headlines from around the world with the help of superstar international comedians.
Joining us today for a very special last episode of Season 2. No, by the way, I heard if we get a Season 3, Fauci said that's it for COVID. Is award-winning comedian, Canadian-American dual citizen, Deanne Smith.
Woo!
Hi!
And from Malawi and now in the UK, it's the hilarious Delisa Chapunda, everybody.
Hello.
Tell us, guys, what's happening where you are? Where are you? What's new? What's going on?
I am in a kitchen. I am stuck in a kitchen because of COVID. This is my performance space. I go for a walk every day for mental health. But other than that, my world is my kitchen.
Kitchen. Okay. Are you cooking or you just perform out of there?
I cook and I perform. The performing is significantly better than the cooking. I have burnt a lot.
We're so happy to have you here, Deanne. What's going on? Where are you? What's happening in your world?
Well, I have much the same world as Deliso, although I am in Vancouver, to which I fled right before the U.S. elections. I had been living in L.A., and I thought, I got to get out of here. Now that the vaccines are rolling out in L.A., the joke's on me. But in any case, we're all doing the best we can.
Let's get into our guest stories. Before leaving the house, a lot of us go through a routine checklist, making sure we have our keys, wallet, phone, and possibly soon in the UK, vaccine passports. Delisa, what's going on? Are you excited about having a third passport?
I am. Most people in the UK, it's very controversial because the idea, not just in the UK, around the world, is being discussed of having vaccine passports. You've been vaccinated, you get some form of document, and you can go travel, go into nightclubs, and so on and so forth. A lot of people are angry. I hope it happens because I'm Malawian. I currently have one of the worst passports in the world, right? And I would like to have a passport which actually lets me into places. In fact, if it comes through, I'm going to stop using the old one and I'm going to try to travel internationally just with the vaccine passport. It would be worth more than the average African passport.
Listen, as a Palestinian, I'm jealous vaccines got a passport before we did. So
there you go. Exactly right. Exactly right. And I also think about, like, a passport isn't just one thing, right? It's not just like a passport for COVID. So what I think is it should be like a passport of you, and you get a COVID stamp, but they can start putting in other stamps which affect how good a traveler you are. Like if you are somebody who's loud and obnoxious, you don't get a certain stamp. I don't know, just like use this passport for more.
Like this person takes their shoes off on the plane. Like,
there you go. Exactly. A stamp.
Yes, this person will try to talk to you while you have headphones on.
No, absolutely.
But the weird thing is, like, seriously, a lot of people are saying that using vaccine passports, it's a human rights issue. It would limit people's human rights. And I personally am like, we've always had health passports of some sort. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like if you're traveling to certain places, you have to get like a yellow fever card. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are resistant to it. And I'm like, bring it on. I miss life and I'll carry around a little piece of paper if it lets me leave the kitchen.
Yeah.
I wonder if there was this much uproar, like in the 80s when they started putting up the no shirts, no shoes, no service sign everywhere. Like, we agree as a society there are basic things we do to protect each other and our health, and with the no shirt policy, just to not get grossed out. I think most of the people kind of upset about the quote vaccine passport, at least in the US, probably have never had a regular passport. I feel like their logic would extend as far as like, I have to take a picture of myself and show it to someone from another country. This is nonsense.
I mean, there's a difference in the debate, I think, between the traveling internationally vaccine passport idea and the needing to show it to get into a restaurant or bar or something.
Very true.
Does that make sense?
My brother lives in Qatar, right? And there you have a QR code. But if you've been vaccinated, it's gold. And now people just want it because it's gold.
Yes.
Nothing to do with the idea of protection.
Genius
I want
marketing.
the gold one. Very brilliant.
I mean, now I want the gold one. I love gold.
Iman would fall for that.
Perfect marketing for gold. My people in the Arab world. Just say gold.
That's it. Deanne, are people in Canada talking about the vaccine passport, or are they just mostly still on people over 90 over there with the vaccine?
Yeah, people in Canada are just digging in our heels, waiting for the day our age category comes up. I think, I'm in British Columbia. I think we just started vaccinating 85 and above. So we got a minute before we even have to get into this debate.
From New York City, we are the podcast that takes the headlines to an outdoor stand-up comedy show to hear comedians complain about how comedy is so much better indoors. I'm Iman El-Husseini.
And I'm Jess Solomon, and you're listening to Comedians versus the News from the BBC World Service.
We first met both of our guests, Deliso and Deanne, in our hometown of Montreal, Quebec. Quebec is the only Canadian province that's officially Française, even if France wouldn't necessarily agree that that's the language we are speaking. Funnily enough, an immigrant from France failed a Quebec French test. Deanne, is this Quebec's way of retaliating? Dites-nous, qu'est-ce qui se passe?
Well, I love this story because I lived in Montreal for about 9 years, I think, always traveling in and out of the province, doing comedy in English. I never properly learned French myself to be there, and I constantly felt bad about it. I did learn a couple of phrases that I'm sure I'm mispronouncing, but basically I just kind of went around like, je suis désolé, I'm sorry.
Good one.
And je suis américaine, and I'm American. That got me out of pretty much everything. People are like, of course, we understand, you're an idiot. But I love the idea of this French from France, French speaker, failing the French test for Quebec.
My God.
I mean, how hard is the French test? What are they trying to do?
Do we have any idea what the questions were? I mean, I just don't understand how a French guy or person could fail it.
I got into it deep enough to see that he had problems with the oral comprehension part, where you had to like listen to a recorded conversation, and then
that makes sense.
Kind of analyze it from different points of view. And that's where I got tripped up. I don't know what was in the conversation.
Just exactly Quebecois French. That's what it was. You know, it's the slang of the French.
I mean, when I saw there was an oral comprehension issue and this man had to see things from different points of view, it definitely sounded like it could be more about him than the language, you know?
Just like a male problem?
Just a male
I'm
problem.
Sorry. There's more than one point of view.
And I have to listen and repeat what you said. I was like, is this a language issue? Because it seems it's a listening
that guy issue.
I'm sure I would fail this test.
Yeah.
Being from Montreal and speaking French.
No, also possibly just the accent.
Yeah.
Through him. Because I have heard some accents and you're like, we are speaking the same language, but I do not know what you are saying.
Right.
The first time I went to Scotland, I did not know what anybody was saying at any moment. So I could imagine that there's the same kind of vibe going on. This French guy has never heard people brutalize his tongue as we had just written.
A lot gets lost in translation in French and English in Quebec, especially. I remember going apple picking once in Quebec, and they had like a mascot for the orchard. And you guys help me with my pronunciation here, but he was called Pépin la Pomme.
Okay, Pepin La Pomme, good.
Pepin La Pomme, which essentially in English just translates to Seedy the Apple. And I'm like, this is not the fun, like, kid-friendly name that you think it, like, Seedy the Apple is like, hey, kids, let's go to the orchard and then buy me a pack of smokes. Like, Seedy the Apple? I mean, I kind of get it. There's a lot of misunderstanding going on in that province.
Oh, and also, I can probably imagine when they found out a French guy failed it, they all were like high-fiving in the office.
Sure.
Achievement unlocked. Yeah.
And now it's time for this week's headlines. Here's Nigel.
And for one final time, this is Nigel Witherbottom, celebrating with a pot roast and a glass of sherry as I introduce the hosts of Comedians versus the News, whom I will say I have learned to tolerate. Jess Hussein and Iman Solomon. Here are this week's headlines.
Thank you, Nigel. I knew we would win you over. Cheers, mate. North Korea has announced it will not take part in the upcoming Tokyo Olympic Games over COVID fears. Its athletes responded, "What's COVID?" Pyongyang claims they have 0 COVID cases in the country, which both experts and, quite frankly, non-experts say is highly unlikely.
French police are investigating alleged clandestine fine dining parties in Paris. France is now in its 3rd lockdown, or 1/3 of the way through the 9-course tasting menu at a clandestine dinner party. The police were not amuse-bouche.
Iran and the U.S. have launched indirect talks to revive the 2015 nuclear deal. Launching indirect talks to revive an argument from 2015. What are they, my parents?
The former Crown Prince of Jordan and half-brother of King Abdullah was placed under house arrest over the weekend for allegedly criticizing the government. Coincidentally, the government is also what I call my family when they try to silence me.
Prince Hamza posted a video online denying he had criticized the government and then proceeded to unleash a barrage of criticisms. Because if you're going to do the time, might as well do the crime.
So, Iman, have you heard about a growing movement called Amazonians United?
I'm in.
Do you know who they are?
Big, strong, warrior women like me.
That is my type. Amazonians United are American Amazon employees who are trying to unionize.
But it all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand. There is power in our union.
Alexa, tell me a modern-day David and Goliath story.
Amazon employees make $15 an hour. They have healthcare and a pension. They get 2 15-minute breaks during a 10-hour shift. They do not pee in bottles.
But it's been shown they do. And Alexa, is Amazon respecting its employees' right to organize?
I think you broke Alexa.
Alexa, play There Is Power in a Union by Billy Bragg.
I do not have that in my library.
Of course you don't.
Iman, Alexa isn't going to help. She's afraid of Amazon's union-busting strategy, which has reportedly included firing key organizers, monitoring employees, hiring a security agency to gather intelligence on warehouse workers, and, worst of all, using an army of ambassadors to clap back at people on social media.
You know, I thought it was weird when I tweeted, Amazon Prime delivered my Abraham Lincoln beard so fast I barely had time to consider the human cost. And someone named Debbie from Amazon responded, next time, just use your natural beard.
Ooh, ouch. Amazon's social media comments have made headline news in the United States.
It is very interesting and very unusual. You know, in my experience of covering companies like this, they are very, very quiet typically on social media, or when they go out on social media, they're very civil. Well, in this case, Amazon's been very aggressive.
The highest profile organizing campaign is in Bessemer, Alabama, where 5,800 workers have voted on whether to form a union. And Amazon filled the warehouse with anti-union posters, including in the bathroom.
But they have so little time in there.
I know. They also reportedly tried to change the timing of traffic lights in front of the warehouse to make it harder to pass out pro-union pamphlets to stop cars.
It's like Jeff Bezos wanted to be the dictator of an authoritarian country, but instead was born in America, so he used capitalism to do it instead.
Very resourceful. Well, to the employees of Amazon worldwide and to the labor movement in general, I would like to quote the painted signs Amazon put on the windows of the Bessemer warehouse. Work hard, have fun, make history.
No.
Yes. And from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose face is also on the windows, saying, "The dream is alive."
I'm inspired.
That's great.
Esther and I are forming a union, yes,
No.
and our first demand is that you clean up after both of us and call us good
boy.
girls.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, Deanne and Deliso, what do you think we should do as a society with Amazon and other Goliath companies?
I actually think there's a point where companies become big enough, they should be recategorized as nations, right? With everything that comes. They should have citizens, like, I'm a Coca-Cola citizen, you're an Amazon citizen. We have to go to summits, we have to pay taxes, but also they have to supply certain things to us, certain responsibilities. I think the GDP of Malawi is far smaller than most companies, right? We turned into a company and they should be a nation.
There are times where I feel like, you guys are like, what can be done? I'm like, I don't know. It feels so mammoth that it's almost like, maybe we just go full Black Mirror with this. You know what I mean? Live in pods, everybody get on your energy-generating bicycle, earn your food pellets, and pray for mercy. Sometimes it feels like that's where we're headed.
And let's just accept it.
I don't help because I've got an ordering nonsense on Amazon addiction since the pandemic. It started small. I was ordering necessary things. Now, just anything which catches my eye. I have one of those blankets with hands.
Oh, no.
All right.
Right? This is the depth to which I have sunk. Literally anything which looks vaguely interesting, I click and say, oh, that will be here by tomorrow. It will be here by tomorrow has made the addiction worse because it's instant gratification.
From New York City, this is the show that takes the headlines to get vaxxed at a high school, so when the volunteers cheer as you walk out, it feels like you just graduated. I'm Jess Solomon.
And I'm Emmanuel Husseini, and you're listening to Comedians versus the News from the BBC World Service.
Deliso, apparently a UK government report found that institutional racism no longer exists in the UK. As a UK citizen of Malawian background, this must be like such a relief for you. Are you celebrating?
Also very surprising because in 2017, so not that long ago, the previous government did a similar thing and found that there was serious inequality in education, in the legal sector, in employment, in how the police treat people. And somehow, clearly, it's all been solved in the last 4 years. And now, not only is there no institutional racism in the UK, but they also say that other white majority countries should look to them. So they're bragging now. They're saying, be like us.
What was interesting about the article that I read about this is that they said there's no systematic racism, but people may have challenges because they started like blaming your background, culture, where you live.
It's your class.
It's still your fault. Racism doesn't exist, but it's like where you choose to live, your socioeconomic background and your culture.
Your family, your parents. Right?
That's right.
The way your parents brought you up.
Exactly.
And also, it does this thing where it's 258 pages, okay? It's a giant document. I've only read 60, right? It's a giant document. But it does this thing where it will first acknowledge something that's racist.
Right.
And then in the following paragraph, minimize it. Say, oh, no, it's not as bad as you think. Then bring up another thing and then minimize it. And it's just one of those things where it solely exists to say oh, you guys are overreacting.
Right.
It's very condescending to anybody who's experienced any racism. Oh, no, it's all in your mind.
Yeah.
Like next time the police harass me, I need to look to myself.
Right, exactly.
Like maybe I didn't contextualize that right in my mind.
I really want to blame this on racism. Yeah.
Yeah. Delisa, reference page 248 of the commission's report, and I think you'll find that you're in the wrong. I saw something from there that really made me laugh. It was a foreword to the report, and it says, quote, "We no longer see a Britain where the system is deliberately rigged against ethnic minorities." And I'm like, oh, cool. So you are admitting that, let's say, in the very recent past, it has been, quote, deliberately rigged against ethnic minorities, which sounds so cartoonish as well. Just like I felt to me like there's just booby traps everywhere. The sidewalks open up. Pies in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, even the fact that the senior advisor to the prime minister on race resigned the day the report came out. And Boris Johnson, and he's the most senior black advisor, and he's the advisor on race, of course. And the Prime Minister Boris Johnson said, "No, it's not related to the report at all."
He read the report.
Connection.
He read the report and realized that he could do something else, something better.
Oh yes,
Realize how fair the system
the
is.
job is done. My job is a waste of time.
Deanne, what is happening with racism in your part of the world? You're actually in Vancouver, so I don't know if it's different.
I'm in Vancouver, but I got this news story from the U.S. Because it really kind of blew my mind, and I think ties into what we're talking about.
Yeah.
A political scientist, Robert Pape, studied the issues that motivated people arrested in connection with the attack on the U.S. Capitol, January 6th. We all remember this, recent history. So he was wondering, wow, what motivated people, and found out that they came from places that were, quote, awash in fears that the rights of minorities and immigrants were crowding out the rights of white people in American politics and culture. And I feel like this is the most obvious, quote, news ever reported. Did you need this study to find out that white people are afraid that they're going to lose a bit of power as white people? And it's the article said his data suggested that the Capitol attack has historical echoes reaching back to before the Civil War. I'm like, what tipped you off, buddy? Was it the literal Confederate flags flying at the U.S. Capitol? Like, what is going on? This whole thing just blew my mind.
So we've got the conclusions of this study. What are this person's recommendations?
Yeah, what are the recommendations to that? I don't know if they left recommendations or just like, this is how it is.
Honestly, I don't think it got that far. I think it was like, well, we found something out, everybody, and these guys, turns out it's not economic anxiety.
Yeah.
The least they could do in America
white
is
people
stop...
be worried. That's basically the whole thesis.
That's the conclusion of the whole thing.
You know what that means.
It's time for our game segment, Winner Takes Nothing.
I'm ready. I'm very competitive. I hope there are points and awards and some kind of way to laud my supremacy over people.
Well, this is going to be very disappointing to you, Delisa.
Well, wait, unless Deanne is competitive.
Is this like an everybody's winners, like New Age kind of thing?
No, we're not that nice.
No,
everybody's a loser.
Everyone's a loser. That's equally acceptable. That's fine.
I was going to say my head's been in the sand, so I'm just excited for Deliso to totally sweep this game.
I mean, now the pressure's on Deliso.
Now the pressure's on. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any prizes unless we get a sponsor.
We'd love a third season. Oh. Wait a second. The producers are saying no season 3 if we keep soliciting sponsorships on this public broadcast.
Yeah, that's fair. Deliso, Deanne, are you game?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
Game number 1, complete the headline.
In this game, you've got to guess the missing word in a recent headline that's covered up by our puppy, Esther Honey's bark. Headline number 1. Alabama upholds a ban on in schools. Deanne?
Teaching evolution.
Okay. Ding, ding. Putting silencer on your gun.
Okay. Those are very, very, very strong answers. And I think those are probably right. But this headline refers to another ban.
The newest one.
It was an old one that's been upheld, and that is a ban on yoga.
Wait, yoga is the enemy?
Yes, Alabama lawmakers are afraid that yoga will lead to a rise in Hinduism.
Wait, yoga makes you Hindu? I don't understand. I've never been like lotus position. Oh, my chakra. I don't understand the link.
The worst thing yoga does is make you pay $15 for a juice afterwards.
I know.
The next headline covered by our puppy Esther El Husseini's bark. Greece wait for to return.
Okay, I've got it. Greece wait for John Travolta to return.
Okay, that's good.
That was the only thing I could think to say.
Only thing.
Ding, ding, Olivia Newton-John. Olivia Newton-John.
It's a trick question. It was two people. No.
The answer is tourists. Greece is desperate to open up for foreign visitors who have been vaccinated. Without tourism, most of Greece's GDP comes from yogurt sales and laser hair removal. And now, look what just came in.
Oh, it's time for our segment, Ask CVTN, a safe space for world leaders seeking confidential, no-nonsense advice.
Okay.
So I'll read the letter. We'll read the...
Okay, we'll see what we get.
We're gay, but we give it to them straight. All right, what do you got, Iman, in the mailbag?
Okay, let me see in the mailbag. Oh, there we go.
So many letters to pick from.
I know. This one is, here we go. Dear CVTN, I'm a world leader people love to hate and hate to love. I've served my country for the 72 years it has been in existence. That's right, since I was 2. And as I grew, so did its borders. This land I rule like a king might only be 7 decades old, but it is my people's homeland, even if we left it for like 2,000 years. But who's counting? I'll tell you who. Our enemies. Humble brag, we are the only democracy in the region, and we've held 4 elections in less than 2 years to prove it. And guess who always wins? Yours truly. Despite my dedication to my people and my people alone, I'm currently standing trial for baseless allegations of fraud and corruption. Because, haters gonna hate. They're obviously jealous. Who wouldn't want rich friends to gift them nice things like cigars, champagne, and the world's most advanced spy plane? But this witch hunt has been going on for a few years now, and I'm wondering if it has anything to do with me. Could I have possibly done anything wrong if this feels so right? Sincerely, Bibi King. Well, if that's not Benjamin Natan.
Iman, it's anonymous.
Right.
I keep telling you this.
Right.
Do you have any advice?
No. We've got advice.
All right.
Now, I got to tell you that I feel for this man. And I've got to say, as an African, we've got a colored history of politicians getting in trouble, being put on trial for fraud and similar allegations. And to your letter writer, your solution is the same thing that got you into it. Okay? Okay? I suggest a gift to the judge, possible, all expense paid travel, holidays, post-COVID, of course, to every one of the jurors.
Excellent.
Smart. The door in is the door out. Wonderful.
Deanne, any advice?
Well, listen, in solidarity with the Palestinian people, Iman, I'd like to hear your advice, and then I'm just going to say that I agree also.
Well, I didn't want to give advice, but if I do have anything to say, I would say don't bring your dirty laundry to prison like you did to the White House, Your Majesty.
And that is what I say as well.
What about Jess? What's your advice?
Well, now I'm worried to give advice because I should just say what you said as well and just back you up. But I'll say BB King. I'm going to say that all rains come to an end, and when they do, it's usually not pretty. For people with an inflated sense of self, the fall can be especially hard. In this case, I don't know. Does it apply to you? I'm gathering from your correspondence that you are both a world leader and on trial for serious crimes, but that you also lead a democracy? Interesting. My advice to you is if you believe you're innocent, step down from power and focus on clearing your name. Sometimes when we love something like ruling this land like a king, the best thing we can do is let it go.
That's great. That's great. Deliso, Deanne, thank you so much for being on the show. You guys were wonderful.
Thank you, guys.
It's been fabulous. It's been fabulous.
So much fun seeing you guys again.
Good for my soul.
It's so good. So good. And can you please let our listeners know where they can find you?
Okay, so I am africancomedian.com is where I am. And they can find old specials and also my new tour dates there. So please go there and get some Deliso laughter in one form or another.
Yes, do that. Or go see him in his kitchen.
My kitchen?
Deanne, where can our listeners find you?
You can Google Deanne Smith. I'm the most successful Deanne Smith you can find, so you'll find a lot of stuff there. And also, I have a Netflix special that anyone, anywhere in the world can see. It's under Comedians of the World. Go to Comedians of the World, go to Canada, and find me, Deanne Smith, right there.
I also just realized something as Deanne spoke. My special is on Amazon. So I would like to apologize for any disparagement that has been said by this podcast of Jeff Bezos. I don't condone anything that they said. Your platform is wonderful. Please don't take it down.
And one last time to our fans, our listeners. Actually, we don't need to hear from you anymore. That's it. So if you have a joke, keep it to yourself or tell a friend. It's over. We're done. Finito.
Or you can still keep in touch with us. Iman, where are you going? Iman, she's dropped the mic. She's left the room. She's left the building. Iman, we haven't finished recording. Get back here.
Oh, sorry. I got carried away.
We still want to hear from you. What are your highlights of the podcast? Write to us. Write the BBC. Petition your member of parliament for season 3.
Just get in touch via social media using the hashtag Comedians versus the News. That's Comedians vs. the News. Or tweet at us at BBC World Service.
We miss you already.
We do. And for the final time for season 2, thank you for listening to
Comedians versus the News. Presented by me, Jess Solomon.
And me, Emmanuel Husseini.
Rate, review, subscribe to
Honestly,
season 3.
If you haven't told your friends by now, I don't know what to tell you. This is just...
Keep telling the world.
Until next season. À la prochaine.
You've been listening to Comedians versus the News from the BBC World Service, presented by me, Jess Solomon.
And me, Emmanuel Husseini. The show is written by us with additional material from George Siveris. The producers are Olivia Skinner and Mugabe Turia.
The show is recorded in New York by Damon Whittemore and in Salford by John Benton. The production team are Jackie Nichols and Nancy Benny, with digital support from Will Swigart.
The BBC World Service podcast team are John Manel and Al Riddell. The series editor is Rebecca Stratford, and the commissioning editor for the BBC World Service is Simon Pitts. Hey, Comedians versus the News listeners. Need a new podcast? Then try the Pop Test from ABC Australia. Science is hard and can only be made worse for scientists by having their field mocked in a comedy quiz format. But that's exactly what the Pop Test does. Shame on you, ABC. The show asks big questions. What is love? Why do we die? What lighting is best for a soccer match with snakes? Featuring comedians and scientists like Ross Noble, Alice Fraser, Sami Shah, and astronomer Alan Duffy. Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.